Lisa Shorr, owner of Shorr Success and Secure Future Tech Solutions, is back to chat about news from ConnectWise, Microsoft, and Trend Micro, as well as the 2021 State of the Channel Report, plus a special guest interview with ASCII Group President Jerry Koutavas. It's ChannelPro Weekly number 175, Numbers with Crunch. Hello and welcome to ChannelPro Weekly, episode 175, a milestone show here. 175. Is 75 a milestone? I don't know. You tell me. I am Matt Whitlock, technology editor, online director here at ChannelPro, welcoming you to this fine show for folks like you. And who are the folks like you? Well, we're going to meet one of those folks right now. How about that? Rich, I'm going to introduce Lisa before you, and there's nothing you can do about it. I'm really excited with our guest host today. She's a certified image consultant. She's the owner of Shorr Success and co-owner of Secure Future Tech Solutions, which is a Rhode Island-based MSP. She has more than 2 decades of experience in the sales and marketing arena. She conducts workshops and coaches MSPs on professional development and corporate branding. Please welcome back to the show one of my favorite people on the channel, Lisa Shorr. Welcome, Lisa.
Hey, thanks for having me back. This is awesome. Awesome.
I love having you on. We had a great time with you the last time you were here. So I'm really excited to dive in with you. And I want to point out that when I talk about people like you, I really am talking about people like you, Lisa. Tell people who you are.
So people like me. So who am I? So I am the co-owner of Secure Future Tech Solutions. We're an MSP here in Rhode Island, and there's 22 of us on staff, and we specialize in lawyers and property managers primarily, but we do have other clients in our mix as well. And my role is what I like to say, the Chief Experience Officer. So marketing, customer service, especially employee relations, and how are my employees doing in terms of morale and culture and all of that. And I work with my husband, Eric, on the back end, looking at numbers and really making sure that we are on the right path. As an image consultant, I started Shorr Success in 2012, and that's my way of taking my experience officer my knowledge and specialized training in nonverbal communication, verbal communication. And I say I work with MSPs to turn them into celebrities in their industry. And that's through all the human side of it. It's the way that they speak, the way they present themselves, the way they're showing up online. It's creating that, what I call a personal brand in person and online. And so it's been an amazing experience to be able to marry my two worlds into really one main mission. And that's making MSPs shine in whatever way we can. And boy, do we need it more than ever.
That's awesome stuff. So for those listening, if you haven't figured it out, MSP is a big term there, integrator, VAR. If you do technology with other businesses, you are probably in the right place. Now, we said, like Lisa, that doesn't mean you have to be wearing a brown coat and a necklace. You just need to be one of those technology people working with other businesses. If you are a train conductor, probably not a lot of people riding the train these days. So you might just be listening to us because you're bored, but or you want a new career, and you're in the right place too, because we welcome one and all. And of course, Rich, I didn't forget about you. We know you're here. You don't have to be upset. This is the first time I've ever introduced him third, so he's gonna come back at me later and be like, what the heck is going on? Joining us also each and every week, the man of the hour, the brilliant mind of the channel. Speaking of train conductors, he is like the engineer conductor of the ChannelPro network, making our trains run on time and getting you the awesome information that you need to know. Please welcome executive editor Rich Freeman.
So for our train conductor listeners, I'm the guy who keeps the trains running on time.
Yes. Or I thought about you could be the guy like shoveling the coal into the engine, but I don't know. You're a pretty small guy. I don't know if you could do that job all day long.
All day long? No. Yeah, but good 7-8 minutes. I'm yours. But yeah,
good to diversify the day.
Right, and indeed. So, Rich, it's been a couple weeks since we've been on, because we missed last week because we did it was a very successful event last week about cybersecurity. You want to tell everybody about that?
Yeah, so our first event for 2021, actually, we're going to be doing 11 in all. So basically one a month from this point forward, starting in February. And first one of the year was our Cybersecurity Online Summit. Now, we've been doing Cybersecurity Online Summits for, I think this is our third year, but in the past that has been a one-a-year kind of deal. We're actually going to do two this year. So we did the one in February. We're going to do another one in August, if you missed the one last week. And you know what? It's just maybe next to cloud. It's the hottest topic in the industry right now. So you tell people we're going to bring some great content for you about cybersecurity, and yeah, it draws a crowd. So yeah, it was a very successful, well-attended event. Just, you know, we are so fortunate at ChannelPro to know all sorts of really smart, interesting, successful people like Lisa and have them speak for us. So we had great speakers at the show, and yeah, I was really pleased with it.
Indeed, and we have as you said, we have 11 of them this year. It's a lot of work. What's coming up in March?
We are just a few weeks away. It's all year long. We are just a few weeks away from yet another event. For the very first time, we're going to be dedicating an entire event entirely to business management. So we will normally have some content in an event that will deal with something like sales and marketing or hiring, etc. The Business Management Online Summit, which takes place March 3rd, is all about running your business. And so, gosh, we have a pricing and packaging session, a sales and marketing session, a really interesting session that we're going to be doing about managing labor costs with some very specific advice for measuring that and bringing it under control. And we will be talking shortly, actually, about Paul Dipple, who has been in the news recently. He's our keynoter, and he's going to be delivering a presentation on what makes great MSPs great. So lots of good stuff, and you can learn more about that event and actually all of our events at events.channelpronetwork.com.
So what makes MSPs great? You can't just put a sticker on that says great.
I'm sure it's been attempted. Not sure what the payoff is, but yeah, we can give it a try, see what happens.
It's just marketing, right? If you tell people you're great, maybe you are. I don't know. Lisa, does that ever work for you?
Well, if you tell people you're great with confidence, right? People start to believe it. They'll start to believe it. But really, Matt, to burst your bubble, the proof is in the pudding. What kind of service do we deliver? Are we responsive? Are my techs and my team professional and knowledgeable? And so there's a lot more to it than just saying it, but it starts with the confidence in saying it.
Yeah, that is, well, I'm still going to roll with my sticker idea anyway and see if I get any luck with that, because that's a lot easier than actually providing good service.
I prefer logo.
Yeah. So Lisa, it's been a little while since you've been on. A lot has happened in the world since your last appearance. Namely this whole pandemic thing. I want to talk to you for a few minutes. So we've learned about you in the past. If you want to learn a lot about Lisa, she was on Rich. What show was she on? What episode was it?
I meant to look that up.
Episode 127.
So pre-pandemic, right?
That was pre-pandemic. Yep, that was December of 2019. So go and check that out. We spent a lot of time speaking with you and kind of getting to know your background. And of course, you can talk a little bit about that too while you're going. But what I want to really dive into is just kind of like how the whole how your company, Shorr Success and Secure Future Tech Solutions did during the pandemic. What are your takeaways from it?
So it was all about adaptability and flexibility. So the answer for Shorr Success is I turned it all online. A lot of what I did originally a lot of them were in-person presentations. I would fly, I would drive, wherever someone needed me to conduct workshops or come in-house, I was there. Since then, I designed an online class called Confidence Plus Credibility Equals Cash. And it's an online class. It's a 6-week program that talks about your brand and how did I grow and change my MSP from stagnant to successful, and really the secrets that I've used. I put it into a 6-week class. So I've had to pivot and really changed my mindset there. In terms of the MSP side of things, boy, that was an interesting ride as well. We knew we needed to steer the course. We were scared. We felt had to figure out not only were we obligated to our clients, but also obligated to our employees. So we didn't stop marketing. We took 1 month off, and that was the month of March, when really the pandemic really unfolded. And so but then we just buckled down, and we put a strong emphasis on our clients, a strong emphasis on our employees and morale and connection. I know one of our conversations today is going to talk about, Microsoft is introducing Viva, and what about the client experience? Well, we absolutely embraced what's available to us on Teams. We can talk about that in a bit, and really had to figure out, how do we take this beautiful office that we just renovated? We moved into a brand new office, and it's gorgeous, and it holds more, 25 people, and now there's 4 or 5 at a time in the office, and I'm still paying for it. No change there. So, but it was brand new. We renovated. It was beautiful, state of the art, gorgeous conference rooms, training stations, you name it. And now there's 4 people in it. So we had to figure out. We really had to look at our numbers. Some of our clients, thankfully, we focused on industries that are more sustainable than other industries. So we were okay in that response, but boy, did we have to crunch. There were a lot of late nights, sleepless nights, just trying to get everybody up and running. We suffered just like a lot of other people, trying to get hardware and laptops and webcams, and trying to, prepare ahead of time, well, for the surprise that came to us. And thankfully, we turned out okay. Our numbers at the end of the year, we actually grew. So because of our foresight and our growth and our commitment to our team and our clients, and not really undercut our pricing too much, just we were cognizant of the situation, but we also knew we had a business to run. So I'm thankful that, we were just pedal to the metal. We used a lot of my Shorr success skills of conversation and communication. Really helped, because there were a lot of people who suffered. A lot of people went through a lot in our company. And so we had to just be empathetic and as consistent leaders as we could be. So,
maybe talk a little bit about that, because before we got together to start recording this episode, this memory came back to me of a conversation you and I had sometime last spring. And I just remember it was one of those moments at that point in history that really sort of called attention to me, sort of highlighted what a crazy time we were suddenly in, because you were talking about the business and what was going on. And one of the things you mentioned is that you were spending a lot of time scrambling around trying to find PPE, like face masks and stuff like that. And I was just thinking to myself, I mean, did you ever imagine that would be part of your job, and you would have to think about things like that? So I mean, what did you do? What did you have to do that was nuts like that? For your employees, to keep them okay and to get the business through that time.
Well, the first thing we did is we allowed everyone worked from, while most people worked from home. We had a skeleton crew in the office. Some jobs, like our bench tech, is not an easy thing to do from home. A lot of the prep work for servers and all that needed to be in-house. So, so the first thing we did was home and allowing flexible. We always had the belief that everyone needed to be in the office, and I can't even imagine working from home. Now, Eric and I just hired an engineer in North Carolina. So because we don't have to be beholden anymore. So that changed. In terms of PPE, we provided sanitizer for everybody. We provided face masks. If they needed the bodysuits, we did that. A couple of the plastic coverings, we provided that. We consistently order it. If we run out, we order more. In the beginning, before they determined that gloves really weren't the best thing, we ordered gloves, the plastic gloves for the hands, because they're touching keyboards. They're in client sites. We also amended the way that we speak on the phone. So we asked clients, who's going to be there? Is anybody going to be has anybody suffered from COVID, that kind of stuff. And so we actually had to like ask questions ahead of time, but then also be flexible to some of my team members. If they were not comfortable going on site, I needed to honor that. I needed to honor their fear or their discomfort, and then find another engineer who was more comfortable going on site and doing some of those on-site deployments. But we couldn't stop going on site. That's for darn sure. People needed to move at home. There were skeleton crews at offices. I mean, we were in people's homes. So, and we're still, by the way, ordering. We just ordered the N95, well, the KN95s. It's hard to get the N95, but we just ordered a batch of KN95 masks, because they're saying in the media that you need the stronger mask because of the new strains that are out. And so we went online and we ordered, more, and we leave them at the front of the office. So people don't necessarily have to mill through the entire office. We have a table set up with PPE on it. And we just say, come in and get what you need, and then go back out. A lot of people are not, driving together. We're still going on site separately. So we've had to make a lot of adjustments and changes, and just constantly keep an eye on Amazon to see what's available to us, and just keep ordering. So I ended up creating a separate line item in QuickBooks, because I just wanted to track how much we're spending. When you're thinking a little package here, a little package there, it adds up. I mean, last year alone, it was just on like mats and stuff, it was well over $1,000. I mean, well over. So just for that one piece, I mean, that doesn't include everything else we've done, but just interesting. It's talk about just having to embrace the fear. So, ugh.
So you're really racking up the Amazon points
Yes,
there,
huh? Yes, we are. So absolutely. That's a benefit of ownership. So you can get some of those Amazon points. Yep.
So you've been living this for a year, almost exactly a year coming up. What do you think the next 6 months is going to be like? What do you think the next 12 months?
Well, I feel like the next 6 months are still going to be much the same mindset of last year. I don't think that we can relax yet. They don't know enough about the vaccine. It's just starting to get rolled out. So many people still don't have it. So we're steering our course for, until we know that there's a stronger market saturation of the vaccine, and it's safer, and we're seeing, all of the numbers going down. We're steering our same mindset for now. Second half of the year, once summer hits and all of that, I am so hopeful. I'm so hopeful that we can lift a lot of our strictness and get back together again. We miss having our events and being able to travel, and that's my hope. I'm hoping. I can't predict it. I don't know what will change, but for the first 6 months, I can tell you we're steering the same course. We haven't lifted anything, nothing.
Well, I certainly hope you're right, at least about the last part of the year, so we can all kind of get moving on. But anyway, we're really excited that you're here. Lisa will be here with us the whole show, and what are we going to talk about on this show? Let me tell you, we've got plenty of news coming up. Let me pull the notes up, as I was looking at 127. I'm like, that's old news, because I was looking up what show you were on. I'm like, oh, that already happened a while ago.
My lucky number is 7. I have to tell you really quickly, Matt. My lucky number is 7. So if I was on 127 and now I'm 175, the next show I'm on has to have a 7 in it. So just
I like it. Too bad we didn't plan this for 177. It could have been like the double.
I was born, July. Well, I'm not going to tell you. Never mind. So let's just say my lucky number is 7.
I love it. Let's not dive too much into that. But what do we got coming up on the show here today? We're going to talk about ConnectWise and Paul Dipple. We're going to talk about Microsoft launching some new employee experience. Looking forward to that. Trend Micro's in the news, and of course the 2021 State of the Channel that is now out. And is it online for people to read now, Rich? So we're going to dive into that. Lots of good stuff in there. So let's go ahead and check it out. Rich, ConnectWise has bought managed services consultancy Service Leadership. What did they do? Why is this important?
Well, it's very interesting, that's for sure. Now, it is not at all unusual in the industry these days for a big company, a leader like a ConnectWise or a Kaseya or a Datto to make an acquisition, right? We talk about acquisitions all the time, but typically those acquisitions involve, software makers or service providers of some kind. ConnectWise itself last year purchased two different security vendors, Perch Security and Stratazen. That's not what they acquired this time. This was a very different and very interesting acquisition. They purchased Service Leadership, which is a very well-known, very well-respected consultancy to MSPs, founded and run by Paul Dipple, who we were talking about before. And Paul is a former MSP himself. He's been in the IT industry a long time. He provides lots of guidance and counsel to his members, as do other people, other MSP consultants out there. The thing that is most distinctive and differentiating about Paul, and the thing that I love because I'm a data nerd, is this pool of data that he has. 4 times a year he goes out to, I forget the number, but it's thousands of MSPs. He asks them a bunch of questions about how their business is doing, and then he pools that all together, and it gives him a really great, strong, objective overview of how the industry is performing and what is or is not working for MSPs out there. What are the objectively demonstrable best practices? It's not opinion, but I can look and see that the top 25% of MSPs in my data model here are all doing these things in common. That's why we have them talking about that at our event. So that really is the asset, I think, that ConnectWise was purchasing here is both the Service Leadership Index, as it's called, which is the data itself, the database that they collect, and the Service Leadership IQ tool, or SLEEK, as they call it, which basically helps MSPs measure themselves against the top performers in the Service Leadership Index, and then kind of build a roadmap. Well, what do I do to get myself into that top quartile? So over the course of the next 6 months or so, ConnectWise, with Paul Dipple and his team, they're going to be teaching their customer success managers, so their partner account managers, essentially, the Paul Dipple way, if you will, and those proven best practices, so that a much larger group of people within ConnectWise, will be able to share those insights with MSPs, help MSPs embrace those best practices, become more successful that way. This is part of the appeal of selling the business from Paul's standpoint. And I should say he's staying with the company. He's a ConnectWise employee now. But part of the appeal of becoming part of ConnectWise is the scale that this affords him. Because as he put it in the article I wrote about this, they were just 10 people pedaling really fast before. It was 10 people working really hard to reach as many MSPs as possible. Now he's going to have this whole team of folks at ConnectWise, once he's trained them, doing the same kind of work those 10 people were doing before. Over time, ConnectWise is going to start building those insights and the Service Leadership Index data into its tools. And so there will be places where you will be able to kind of optimize your use of the tools, optimize your business practices that are sort of flagged for you, pointed out for you, made available to you in the tools. So a very strategic resource, essentially, that ConnectWise has spent some money on, and that they'll be looking to utilize in a number of different ways. Quick few notes, Service Leadership has been around for a long time. Paul obviously has a bunch of clients. Nothing changes for those clients, essentially. So they are not going to be required to become ConnectWise users. Their relationship with Paul and his team is going to remain the same. It's just that Paul and that team will be doing a bunch of other stuff that scales the business through ConnectWise. So interesting acquisition news, unusual acquisition news in the industry.
Lots of acquisition stuff. I was looking at the SLIQ. I like that name, Sleek. I was looking at that. I'm like, that looks like it'd be like a Netflix series or something. Sleek.
Yeah.
I don't know, Lisa. What do you think? An interesting acquisition, to say the least. What do you think?
I think this is a very smart acquisition because I think it's important that one of the areas that I have seen missing in this industry, well, there's only like a few people that I can think of that actually teach MSPs how to think about the end game. So one of the things that Paul talks about, well, that Paul's known for is mergers and acquisitions. But in order to be desirable, you have to have your numbers in order. You have to know how to, value your MSP and what numbers to focus on to make you look valuable. And so this is really smart for ConnectWise because they're going to turn their client base into smarter MSPs who, by the way, the more savvy they are, the more profit they'll be. So ConnectWise will become an even stickier vendor. So, and then make this, our industry, stronger. So I think it's a very smart decision on their part. And I'm curious to see how it plays out. I'm not a ConnectWise user. I'm an Autotask user, but we could still take advantage of service leadership and all of that. But there's a saying, Matt, that it says that what you can measure, you can manage. And then what you can measure and manage, you can grow. So this is an effort now for MSPs. We're such a reactionary industry. Fix it, fix it, fix it, fix it. Oh, what's the latest tech that's going to fix it? But then when it comes time to ask people about numbers, and as a coach in this industry, I can tell you a lot of people don't know their numbers. They don't know what they should be looking at and focusing on first to grow their MSP. And so they're wondering why they're stagnant. Well, it's because you're not looking at the right numbers. So I don't know what all the ramifications will be of this, but just by thinking about what could be, I think it's very smart to make us an even stronger industry.
So if you can measure what you grow, then what does that mean?
You can measure if you can measure what you grow, I'm not quite sure what to say.
If you can measure what you grow, then it's probably ripe enough and you can pick it and you can eat it. I don't know.
Then it's good to know. So if you can measure what you grow, then it's good to know. So,
it's good to know. If you can measure what you know, then we could play this game all day long. Go ahead,
don't get me started. I love to rhyme, so don't get me started. My daughter will come running downstairs and say, "Stop, Mom." So
back over to you, Rich. Anything else on this one that we want to pick apart or dive into?
Just quickly, I'll reinforce what Lisa was saying, which I think is spot on, and just in terms of understanding why this is strategic. I mean, if you get value from Paul's data, then this is absolutely a relationship sticky kind of asset that they can offer. The other thing, of course, is if they can succeed in getting MSPs to embrace Paul's best practices, those MSPs are going to grow faster, and that their business, the business that ConnectWise and Kaseya and Datto and as much as more than a lot of other vendors, they really need the MSPs to grow for them to grow. So it's a strategic business choice that way too. It's like, boy, let's get these guys growing faster. Everybody is going to win.
I'm willing to bet that anyone who's currently a service leadership customer is going to get a coupon code for ConnectWise.
Well, you know what? It'll be interesting to see what the crossover is in that. I mean, they really did make a point of emphasizing we're not going to push people into becoming ConnectWise partners, but that doesn't necessarily. They also said in the same interview basically that they think this will inspire some MSPs to become ConnectWise partners, regardless of whether or not they're pushing anyone to do that. Just the access to this asset might actually, and access eventually to tools that incorporate the data might actually attract some MSPs. So that's another way in which it's a strategic purchase for them.
So we're a ConnectWise partner, but not for the PSA side of things, but the RMM side of things. So we're continuum partners as well. So there's a lot of different ways. We're such an integrated industry. So one merger and purchase impacts us. There's no doubt we're going to touch it in some way. So I agree.
Well, interesting stuff. We'll have to see how this pans out and see if they don't push, but incentivize people over to the ConnectWise world. But good for Paul Dipple and service leadership. I hope it works out well for them, and we'll see what the impact is going forward. So Rich, Microsoft is in the news, as Microsoft is in the news a lot because, well, they do a lot of stuff. But this time they have announced some kind of new experience for work from home people. What's going on here?
It's actually a new solution, really. It's a new member of the Microsoft 365 family called Microsoft Viva. And it draws on information from other Microsoft 365 components. It's mostly experienced through Teams, so it's a little bit like some new stuff or apps that get built into Teams. But ultimately, it is a brand new an employee experience solution. And what's really interesting about it to me, we've spoken on various occasions on the podcast about hardware that reflects the changes in the industry in the last 12 months, right? And so, displays that incorporate cameras and microphones to facilitate video conferencing, laptops that have enhanced sound and video because people are on Zoom all day, and blue light controls and stuff like that. So we've already seen the industry change hardware designs around the work from home trend. This is one of the first most prominent sort of software equivalents of that, because the employee experience that they're focused on with Microsoft Viva is very much that work from home kind of employee experience. So right now, there are 4 components to Viva that have been announced. Some of them are still in preview. 1 or 2 of them are actually generally available right now. The first one's called Viva Connections, and it's specifically designed around, or for the needs of people who are working from home. They have, colleagues at the company and colleagues on their team and so on, but they're not sitting side by side anymore. Everybody is sort of, in their own space. How do you keep people in touch with one another? How do you help them communicate and exchange information? How do you help managers stay in communication with their employees, their team? And so there are features within Viva Connections that let you or let managers stage group activities. They let employees form groups, membership groups, and stay in touch with one another that way. It's all kind of customizable if you want to have different resources based on different departments, different job roles, etc. That's all in the tool. There's another piece called Viva Learning, which is basically a user education training kind of tool. Not maybe quite as work from home specific or distinctive, but it pulls together stuff from multiple Microsoft resources, the Microsoft Learn platform, the LinkedIn Learning platform. There is an interesting component called Viva Insights, which is it's a wellness component basically. And I think if we had been talking a year ago about Microsoft creating a wellness app, it might have felt like a strange thing for them to focus on. But given that we've all spent a year basically alone working from home, probably working longer hours, there was a statistic Microsoft cited that over 30% of workers say the pandemic has increased their sense of burnout. So wellness is an even bigger issue in the business world today than it's been. And this Viva Insights tool has features within it that help or are designed to help employees kind of focus more on what's important. Remind people to take breaks and relax and exercise. Just resources that are designed to keep people sane. And avoid fatigue and burnout in these kind of kooky times. And then the last of the 4 that they've introduced now is called Viva Topics, and it's essentially a sort of enhanced portal, enhanced search kind of solution that pulls information together from across the business and organizes it for you around topics that are relevant to what you do in particular. And it's really designed to kind of save people from the difficulties of finding what you need. So bring the data to people based on the topics they're interested in, as opposed to making them go search for it. And Microsoft said people spend the equivalent of 7 weeks a year searching for information. So they're trying to cut back on that a little bit and keep people from being inundated with information by highlighting, surfacing the stuff that's most relevant to them. Now, I had never heard of the employee experience product category before Microsoft Viva came out, but according to Microsoft, and I don't know where this number comes from exactly and how they're defining the product category, but they say their employee experience technology is a $300 billion a year industry, or tools and initiatives. So the employee experience in general is a $300 billion a year industry right now. So on top of these tools being maybe especially useful right now in these pandemic times, it's actually kind of a giant market maybe that people didn't really know about and weren't playing in before.
Wow, there's a lot here to dive into. I'm at first I'm going to say I'm shocked they held back on not using the word Vista instead of Viva, because that went over really well the first time.
Well, that's the Spanish version. Vivir is to live. So I'm pretty sure that's why Viva is life. And then Vista is view. So that's why they didn't do Vista. So.
Gotcha. Wow. I'm surprised you knew that. That's pretty cool.
A little bit of Spanish. Just a little bit.
Cool. So lots to dive in here. Now, Rich, is this something that is broadly available now, or is this something that's kind of coming?
A lot of it is still coming. I'm trying to remember. One of those 4 modules I just described to you is actually available now. I think it might have been the first one, the Viva Connections, that's out now. The others are coming within the next 3 to 6 months, I believe. And by the way, this isn't where the product stops. There will be more of these modules coming from Microsoft, and they're already talking to ISVs about developing their own Viva modules that users can kind of snap into place.
So this is part of the new work from home era. And I don't know, Rich, I've worked from home for years and years and years. Nobody cared about my wellness. Why do we care so much now?
Well, you are, and I am too, because I'm in a very similar situation. We're kind of used to the work from home routine, but there are definitely a lot of people out there who aren't, and it's been it's been an adjustment for a lot of people, and it's been very stressful. And so yeah, the wellness piece of that in particular, I think is very timely. And as Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft, pointed out in the launch briefing for this product, there is a bottom line angle to that as well. Companies that have healthier physically and mentally healthier employees perform better. So this is a worthwhile area for employers to invest in, and I think it's probably a needed investment at a lot of companies right now.
Yeah, that's a good time to turn it over to Lisa. Lisa, is this something that excites you about being able to bring your team closer together? Has that been an issue for you?
So to take that step back, what you just said, Rich, it's if I didn't focus on this year or this past year, I don't know where our company would really be. I mean, my strongest asset is my team, right? They're the ones that are doing the service delivery. They're the ones that are going on the front line. I mean, Eric is going out and doing sales. I'm doing a lot of the marketing, but I'm able to do a lot of it remotely. So, but when you're putting people out there and then you have clients who are demanding more and a quicker response time than ever before, our clients, I don't think they realize it, but have shifted to become even more demanding. And so if I didn't talk to my employees regularly and provide them an experience, as well as any kind of experience that we understand, we're here for you, come talk to us anytime, I would have major issue on my hands. And I would absolutely. So I love that Microsoft is responding to and really enhancing Teams. So we embrace Teams right away because we all went from home. So you took an office who was always together. We're 29 years old this year. So we've always worked in one office together, camaraderie. And then now we're all bye-bye, all separate. What the heck do you do? So we embrace Teams. I mean, I'm glad to hear that there's going to be enhancements and growth, and we use everything on Teams, from the chat function to the file sharing to the wikis, so we can look at documents together, to scheduling meetings. And we have a daily huddle now, a daily meeting on Teams every morning, checking in. How are you doing? How are we doing? If Eric and I needed to report in on something or what have you, it's all now remote. So this is a critical, I am thankful and I'm looking forward to embracing more of this. And a lot of what I do is all separate. Like we provide training. I definitely believe that $300 billion mark on benefits is there because, thinking about our health insurance that we provide, it's the number 2 expense in our country, in our company. We provide training to the tune of several $1,000s a year for our engineers so that they have the training that they need to stay current and, look in the future. So I believe all of that. But we have to, as MSPs, we have to be there for our employees. We have to ask them, how are you feeling? How are you doing? And really take a step back and say, okay, we've got to be empathetic here to where they are and what their home life is versus what it is now. Some of my employees have 4 young children at home, and now they're home, the spouse is home, the children are home, and now they're learning it, and the children had to learn from home. That's so stressful. So I like the idea of the insight so that if I had a tool to check the temperature of my employees, I have to do it manually right now and just ask them. But how nice would it be to poll them or survey them, have some sort of a portal and a widget to look at, to check the temperature and, not just the physical temperature, but really emotionally, how are you doing? Where do I need to focus? There are a couple of times this year I had to focus and I had to help employees that were struggling or feeling stressed. And so that's going to be a great tool. It's going to be a great evolution.
And that you bring up something important that I kind of glossed over before. I mean, with the Viva Insights tool, there are really kind of 2 dimensions to it. And as an individual user, the tool is making suggestions to you that are designed to make you healthier, basically. But the tool is also collecting and aggregating information about how an entire employee base is doing wellness-wise. And that data is anonymous because it's, this is health information and you don't want to be flagging it on an individual basis. But managers like yourself can get that big picture view. How is the team doing right now? Right. Based on how individuals are interacting with insights.
Yeah, we need now more than ever as a leader, we all have to communicate very regularly with our team. And if you're not meeting with your team regularly, I strongly encourage you do, because you want to know, what are you feeling? What's stressing you out? Or what's going on? Is there anything I can do to help you? Everyone has such different experiences with COVID, and there's nothing the same, like we've had to jump and adapt so nimbly, which is so nimble this year. And our leadership just needed to have empathy. And that's what's going to be for 2021. And we just have to look at where everybody came from. And so having insights like, Viva Insights will be helpful as an additional tool. It's not going to replace the one-on-ones, but it's an additional tool if we haven't, or maybe it clues us in on something or a specific area that maybe we need training, maybe we need to hone in as a group discussion, or maybe it's, whatever it is, we have to just stay in tune to all of that. It's hard.
Okay, so I'm going to ask kind of a stupid question because that's what I do here is I ask stupid questions. So I don't generally have a very personal heart-to-heart with my computer when I sit down to go to work every day, and it doesn't prompt me by saying like, hello, Matthew, how are you feeling today? Where I say, computer, I'm a little down in the dumps. So how is it going to gauge my mood? Like, how does that work?
So, I've not seen a demo. I've not entered, so a little hard for me to answer that. Some of it, I don't know if you're familiar with the Microsoft the previously existing Microsoft 365 functionality that will sometimes point out opportunities to focus more or prompt you to book some time where you're not being interrupted or you're working on. So it's some of that functionality is stuff that we've all probably seen a little bit of in the tool, where it's kind of, monitoring your usage of the Microsoft 365 components and using that information to make some suggestions that might be helpful. But and I don't know, but beyond that, it's probably watching for, what you're asking for through the tool, what kind of resources that you follow up on, and maybe reading some things, into that.
So it's going to monitor my browser search history.
Probably.
Well, that seems problematic, doesn't it? I mean, I guess
don't
when I
know.
search through Teams, but is it going to hook into the web browser too?
I have no reason to believe it will, but if you are in Insights and you are doing a lot of querying or whatever about therapy, for example, or you've done searches inside the tool about stress or depression or exhaustion or whatever, that,
But
that's a
who's
sign
going to
maybe
do that though?
What's that?
Who's going to do that? Who's going to do a search in the inside? This is where I'm like playing kind of devil's advocate, like, because
Yeah.
I'm not really understanding what it's going to measure or gauge, because most people don't interact with these systems in that kind of a personal way. I guess I could see how like many hours you're working, kind of. But I don't know how it's going to get an emotional state out of somebody. That's what I'm trying to figure out.
I guess it depends on how useful the tool ends up being. And I mean, and again, we would probably be speaking more authoritatively if we had the interface in front of us or had seen a demo, and it would make more sense, I'm sure. But at the end of the day, it's one of these things where if I decide to play around with this new tool that just rolled out and see what it does, and I get some insight from it that actually helps me, shorten my workday a half an hour, sleep a little better at night, feel better in the morning, I'll go back and look for more of that. And if I don't, it'll be like, whatever, another, Microsoft thing, and I'll never look at it again.
Yeah, interesting stuff. I want to. There was a quote in here that I wanted to touch on too, because Lisa, I don't know about all of your team, but the quote was that says, "Our research shows that nearly 60% of workers feel less connected to their team since the move to remote work." Now I love my team members here, but I know that in every company, not everybody likes the people that they work with. It seems like there should be another part of this quote to like, well, 60% of workers feel less connected. What percentage of those people prefer it that way?
That's a great question. You know what? I think that as IT folks, we're a lot of, I'm not a techie per se. I married into this industry 22 years ago. And so by proxy of marriage, I'm a techie now. But a lot of techies like the idea of being separate and individual and behind the screen. And so working from home and having that quiet time is fine for people and for many people, but it doesn't build a team culture, a culture of cohesiveness and collaboration. It just creates people on an island for themselves. So we have to take stock in understanding that there are people who are more introverted and prefer to be behind the monitor, but also in order for a company to work and a company to gel and provide unified messaging and solutions, we've got to collaborate as a team and get out of your comfort zone and find ways to communicate and collaborate. So I think having something like Teams has been a blessing for my company, because there are people who would prefer to be quiet, but I've forced them to not be quiet. I have forced them to speak, to share, to ask questions, because that's the only way we're only going to grow together. And that reflects then with our clients. So that we've got to make sure we keep a focus on getting everybody to communicate, no matter where they are. There's no excuse now for us to not collaborate, because we've got tools like Teams and Zoom and all the other, Slack and all of that. We have all the abilities to collaborate.
And we should be using all of them simultaneously, because there's nothing like having Teams, Zoom, Slack, and all these other ones going all at the same time.
Oh my God.
Lots of collaboration.
Crazy. You've got to pick a platform, people. Pick a platform. And for my internal company, internally, we've picked Teams. And all of our chatting, all of our video, it's all through Teams. So we picked a platform and stuck with it.
Smart advice there as well. So cool. Well, it'll be interesting to see how this is received when it rolls out and what kind of functionality it provides, and if it makes people's lives better. We'll have to see. Now is Rich, does Google have something like this for their workplace platform, as far as you know?
I
Or
don't
is this
know.
kind of new?
Not sure.
So there you go, folks. Another reason to switch to Microsoft 365. So that way you can have Cortana ask you if you're feeling good at the start of the day. Fun. Okay, let's move on to our next story.
On that note.
On that note, when you say the word Cortana and everybody's like used to like thinks of how they're enraged they are when they start up the Windows 10 installer, and it's like, hi, I'm Cortana, I'm here to help. And you're like, die and shut up. Where's the mute button? All right. Trend Micro has expanded their XDR solution in some way. Rich, what's going on with Trend Micro?
But I tell you, the XDR space is kind of hot right now. And I mean, the analysts are basically saying that you look at the different kinds of security software out there, and XDR is one of the most intriguing to businesses, one of the fastest growing. If you look at what kind of new tool maybe will companies roll out in the next year, a lot of people are investigating XDR right now. And XDR basically it stands for Extended Detection and Response. We spoke about an XDR solution from Fortinet a few weeks ago on the podcast right now. And the extended basically means that unlike EDR, Endpoint Detection and Response, which looks for suspicious activity and breaches on an endpoint and then helps you detect that and respond to it. The XDR tools pull in input from firewalls and email security systems and cloud security systems, all of the different tools that you use, and kind of pull that all together so that you can maybe correlate patterns and see issues that you might potentially be dealing with in one place instead of having to inspect a bunch of different tools. And so what Trend Micro did that's kind of interesting is sort of expand that concept. So if the basic appeal of XDR in some respects is that it's centralizing security input so that you can detect and respond to problems more accurately and through fewer silos, they started to think, well, what else can we pull into that tool to reduce the number of silos that channel pros and their customers are dealing with. And so what they did is they took an existing XDR product that they had before, and they enhanced the functionality in that a little bit. There are some new XDR specific features, but really what they did is they turned it into something new that they're calling Vision 1, and they added a bunch of things to it that you could probably get elsewhere. But by building it all into one solution, it's designed at least to simplify life for people who think about security. So they have this whole new risk visibility feature in the system where, drawing on the same data that it's looking at all the time for indicators of a compromise of one kind or another, it will also look for risky configuration settings, risky user behavior, unsanctioned cloud software, something like that. Things that it spots that it wouldn't necessarily alert you to as a security incident because it isn't, but that, by making you more aware of it can help you improve the security posture of your company or a customer's company. They added a whole bunch, an expanded set of APIs, so it was possible to integrate with their XDR tool before, but they've really kind of enhanced that in an effort to make that XDR system more of a hub that connects or collects more data, richer data from all the different security solutions that you use. And then they have a consolidated management interface that they've added. They didn't go so far as to call this the proverbial single pane of glass. They're not trying to position this as the one and only management console that you use, but they are trying to position it as something that will reduce the number of management consoles that you have to deal with by pulling information in from Trend Micro products and from third-party products that take advantage of those APIs. So, again, we talked about a Fortinet XDR solution a few weeks ago. Their big differentiator. The thing that they focused on was artificial intelligence and using that to sort of automate some of the response piece of what an XDR tool does. The trend micro strategy in XDR and taking advantage of the momentum in XDR is to kind of build an XDR tool into something that's actually more than just XDR.
So we can safely say that XDR or EDR is not enough anymore, and having just endpoint detection, because everybody's moving outside of just the endpoint to these other things. And like you said, AI, and there's no automation and response here, right? This is just data gathering.
Correct. I mean, there's functionality in there basically where it will prompt you. It'll say, okay, here's what I've spotted. Here are 3 things you can do about it. And I don't believe it actually executes that itself. So, I mean, there is some automation in there, but not, I think, of the kind you're talking about.
Okay. And I'll point out too, because every time there's a new brand of something that includes either 360 or 1, you know, Rich, that like I'm instantly like whatever. But I got to give them a half credit because they didn't call it One Vision. They called it Vision 1. So I'll give them like not even 50%. I'll give them like 25% credit for that.
And it's 2 words as opposed to the 1 word with the capital O. So
right. Now if they would had called it One Vision 1, that might have been a little bit worse.
You can't even say it 3 times. One Vision, like they're trying to say it 5 times. Forget it. You can't even.
I can't go down that route. But still, you know, marketing folks out there, 1 is done, right? We've seen the word 1 too many times. I'm going to say it again. Let's open up our minds a little bit beyond 1. Like they could have called it, even they called it Vision Uno. That still would have been an improvement.
Muy bien. As we say in Spanish.
Right, we're following Microsoft down the Viva world and going into the Uno. I don't know, Lisa, how important is this move to XDR and all of these threat detection platforms started to expand their reach beyond just endpoints?
Well, I can't really speak too much technically about the benefits of this. And also I noticed in the article when I read it is that it's really not even available. It's mostly available for companies with IT departments. So like a co-managed environment, and that's not really my business model. We primarily become the IT department for small businesses. One of the questions I had for you, Rich, actually, well, I had one thought and then one question. And one thought when I read the article and I surmised it was putting all of, so as an, and I could be on the wrong path. So shift me back, not being the technical one here, but we have so many different layers of cybersecurity protection for our clients. You know, everything, and each one has a portal. So it sounds to me like this, what I gathered from this article is that they're trying to make it not one pane of glass necessarily, but to at least consolidate when there's a risk or an alert. So we have every single solution from SentinelOne to Proofpoint to Huntress. We have rules to provide us an alert in our support inbox, email inbox, if there's a problem. Otherwise, we would have to go into every portal individually. So that was my takeaway from this article. And I don't know if that's exactly your question, Matt, but I like the idea that they're trying to consolidate into one central hub. That would make my tech team and my service team and delivery more efficient. So I like that. And I was also wondering, Rich, if they mentioned when this would be designed in a better fit, or will it ever be a good fit for a non-co-managed environment? You know, so I just wanted to get some insights there too.
Yeah, so on that last point, I don't have the definitive answer on that. I mean, so to follow up on what you said, there is no multi-tenant functionality. This is not like an MSP friendly product. Okay. So that, you know, for the most part, it's going to be that kind of co-managed environment, or a company large enough, you know, to have its own IT people and you're reselling that product into that company. My recollection was that when this came up during the interview that, you know, they have that MSP market potentially on their radar, but not necessarily like on the roadmap. They have, by the way, a managed XDR product. So if you're an MSP and you want to do XDR with Trend Micro, there is a solution that will enable you to do that. But this particular solution, I don't know if they're going to MSP-ize it at some point down the road. And in terms of the observation you were making, yeah, that's exactly what the vision behind Vision One is,
Right.
that companies have all these different silos. Each one has its own portal. How do you sort of start consolidating that information? And that's kind of what they want to be doing more and more over time with Vision One.
But I think the branding and the name makes sense, Matt. So I think Vision One, to have one central hub, one location, I think is smart. So, because I tell you, it could be very, very cumbersome. I chatted with my service manager about this article and what her thoughts were and all of that. And she's like, hey, if you could provide a simpler solution to me so that, right now, like I said, we're creating alerts and all of that, but if there's a better way to do it, then we're open. So, so I like the Vision One name.
I didn't say it didn't make sense. Rich, you haven't been on probably for all of these, but I always rail on companies for using the same marketing terms over and over again. Like one company came up with one something, so now like everybody does. It's the same thing back in the day. Remember, like when the iPod was really big, every product that came out then was like I something.
Mm.
So it's just bandwagon mentality. Why do they just call it Vision? I think that's a cool name. Why the one?
One. I like it.
Because it's one view, I think.
Yep.
But
simple.
is it really?
Simple.
I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I'm nuts. Well, we all know that. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on. It's a good story. And by the way, folks, for those who are listening or following along, watching on YouTube, if you're listening, go to the show notes page for episode 175. ChannelProNetwork.com is where you'll find that, and then you'll find links to all the stories, because we're just kind of touching the high level here, and you can go in and you can read these and get all of the detail that's in here. If you're watching on YouTube, same thing. Open up the description area. We got all the links for you right there. So go and check those out, and then you can read about all of this stuff. And if you want to start writing down alternative brand marketing names for products that do not include the words one, that would be good too. Let's get a list of those for all of these security companies and vendors to start choosing from. Rich, we've got another big story coming up, and I know we're running a little long because we want to get to our interview with Jerry Koutavas from the ASCII Group. He's joining us here in a little while. Rich, the 2021 State of the Channel. Now, you do this every year. Tell them what this is about.
Yeah, so every year, towards the beginning of the year, ChannelPro publishes its annual State of the Channel report. We do a big survey. We go out to our readers. We collect a bunch of information, and then we kind of pull all that together and sort of try to help interpret it for you. So this is something I've been doing annually for a number of different years now. This State of the Channel report is really unlike any that we've done before, because obviously the last year has been unlike any year before. And just to kind of give you a sense, so normally this is a relatively straightforward exercise. So we go out and we survey people, and then the data is sent to me, and I take this year's data and I look it over and I compare it to last year's data, and I'm looking for trends and so on and so forth. It's very difficult to do that this time around, because we collected the information for the 2020 State of the Channel survey before the pandemic. So totally different universe that we no longer recognize as our own anymore. Then in April, we actually went out and did a sort of mini State of the Channel pulse check kind of thing. So April, think back to April, the world's falling apart. You can imagine that very, very different numbers about, business confidence and so on. And then the numbers for the 2021 channel survey we collected between, I think it was August and October of last year, which is not that long ago. And you think about what's changed in the world just in that last, 4 to 6 months. So very difficult, a lot of change, a lot of fluctuation, harder than usual to do that trending and so on, because of how much has changed so rapidly in the industry. but basically, you hear a lot about the V-shaped economy or recovery, where there was a crash due to COVID-19, and then generally speaking, some relatively quick recovery, particularly in IT. Not for everybody, not for every vertical, et cetera, but in the IT world, some very difficult months for a lot of people, but then a pretty rapid bounce back. And a lot of that is reflected in this year's State of the Channel. So essentially, if you were to kind of, boil it down to its essence, what we got from people was, it could have been a whole heck of a lot. It was not a great year, but it wasn't a terrible year for a lot of people either. And it could have been much, much worse. People are doing much better now than they were 6-8 months ago now, and there is what I would call guarded optimism about the future, and it's reflected. I won't go into all the detail. There are a lot of statistics in here, but I mean, if you look at the plans people reported to us about hiring, am I going to be kind of keeping staff steady or adding people? Am I going to be raising salaries or holding those? There are a lot of indicators of cautiousness where people are, we all know how unpredictable the future is right now. People are still a little guarded, not quite sure what's coming next, taking care not to, make commitments that they might regret later on. But by and large, feeling pretty good about how things are going, and how they expect them to go over the course of the year ahead.
And you are correct. There are a lot of percentages in this particular piece. So folks, if you like numbers like 48%, 51, anything that ends with a percentage sign, you are going to love this particular State of the Channel report. Lots of good stuff in here. Lisa, I want to turn over to you. There's way too much here to cover in depth, but looking over kind of some of the statistics here, is anything in here shock you? Anything you want to point out specifically that you found surprising or insightful or interesting?
I think that what I noticed in the channel is that those that hid from the pandemic and were afraid of marketing themselves and not comfortable with that growth. I was trying to remember what statistics as you were talking. I'm like, where did it say that the revenue was somewhat lower in 2020 due to the coronavirus, and 22% say it was much lower. I'm pretty sure a lot of those that would say that were people who, I mean, I'm not summarizing, everybody again has their own experience, but for those who didn't have that mindset of, I need to get out and meet with my clients, I need to talk to them about working from home, and I need to sell them something, a lot of them struggled. And so there's a lot of fear. There was a lot of fear in our industry in the beginning and a lot of unknowns. So was I surprised? No, not really. I thought that Rich pretty much accurately reported in on what I was seeing in our industry and the growth and all of that. I actually took a lot of the charts and put them separate so I could read them, separately, just to kind of have a sense of where we were and hiring staff and all of that. So we made an effort to make sure that our staff wasn't part of the overall statistics of unemployment. We thought we were very cognizant of that and very mindful of that. And so I know that was a struggle for a lot of MSPs, and we made a huge effort on building our managed services. I think one of the areas that I noticed in the report is that people aren't focusing on managed services and building managed services. That represents for us 70% of our business is managed services. So because that's stability, that's money coming into our company every single month that I can guarantee. I can't guarantee everything, but we did lose a couple of small accounts last year thanks to COVID, and we extended some terms last year to some clients because they asked for it. But for the most part, every sale that we made, we built in a component of managed services. I would say probably 90+% of our sales always has a component. So there was a number of managed services. They're expecting rising profits, and I would hope that number would be higher. So I would really hope that, because we need to focus on that number and that model so that when you're projects, you're just chasing the next project. The margins aren't there for it. It's the next. We've got to find ways to build. So that's my response to this report. And I was surprised, at the managed services piece, really, because everybody should be focusing on managed. If that's your model, and if it's not your model, it's really time to think about, if you're an MSP, shifting your sales process and your model to building in that managed component. So I was thankful.
You got to make it sticky, right? You got to make sure you're as sticky to your customers as you can. And that's really the way to do it.
It makes it very hard for them to leave. You become a much more valuable partner when you're not only, you're providing them all of the different services, you're managing their network, you're securing their network. You're also now, doing the phone system. I mean, the VoIP sales for 2020 went up because a lot of people had the old legacy phone systems that were only on premise, and you couldn't connect and have conversations if you're in the office. So we saw a huge rise in VoIP sales, and we're actually trying to continue to capitalize on that now in this quarter, because we need to make sure that everybody has that flexible workplace, and we need to have that flexibility. We have to have a mindset that our clients are going to look for us to sell flexibility, not just on-prem. We have to have the mindset of both now. So you're right.
For sure. Rich, I want to point out one of the charts on here that I found kind of interesting was the coronavirus actions and implications chart. That kind of showed a percentage of people who of actions that they took. So I was a little surprised to see that only 19% said that they laid off staff as a side effect of this. That is a pretty impressive number. Why do you think that's so low?
Just think back to, and Lisa's really the right person to ask about that. But I mean, think back to what so many people in our audience went through when all of a sudden all their employees were working from home. I mean, and there are a lot of companies out there that are as busy or busier than they've been. So I mean, it is, it's a very reassuring, an encouraging number that it was only 19%. But yeah, there's a lot to do.
At work. Oh, gosh.
Yeah, for sure. And I was also probably not surprised to see that the largest percentage on this chart was to delay or cancel hiring new people. Now, do we think that is going to change in 2021? Do we think that there's going to be an increased amount of hiring as we go forward?
Not so much. So, I mean, a very small percentage of people said that they were thinking they might cut staff. I mean, I would have to look it up. It was on the order of 7% of people said that they were anticipating, letting people go. But the biggest number on that question said, steady as it goes, we're not looking to expand necessarily, because again, it goes back to that guarded optimism thing. I don't want to get out too far ahead of the economy and the pandemic and all of that. But keep payroll where it is. Some people definitely are planning to hire. I think most people are planning to stick with what they've got.
So Lisa, and one other one that I want to point out, which I kind of chuckled at a little bit, was it says plan to sell business or retire. So 8% of the respondents just decided to throw their hands up in the air and say, screw this, I'm out of here.
I hope they used some of Paul Dipple's numbers, in tracking that. But I think a lot of people, so there's a very wide range of age, in the MSP sphere. A lot of people got into IT back in the day because they were working for IBM or they were working, and then they morphed over into, I'm going to fix a computer. And they've just stayed in this industry 25, 30 years. And so for those people, I think it's a viable decision now. Do I want to continue where I think a lot of people did some soul searching during this pandemic. We've had time at home and we're not running around driving. We're not stuck in a car in a long commute. We're home. So I think a lot of people are thinking about that. I think I'm glad the number is low because there's a lot of opportunity in our industry to maintain our course. We actually hired 2 people last year. So I know we're somewhat of an anomaly, but I was worried about burnout. and we had a lot of work to do. So we had to, we called our clients and those who needed to work from home, we had to set them up. There was a huge influx of additional work. So there's a lot of opportunity. And for those who are just done, they're done. They've had enough. But it looks to me, though, that a lot of people are steering the course if that number is so low.
Yep. So some people are sticking the fork in it and calling it a day, but lots of people are proceeding forward. So really good information. Find the link to this in the show notes, channelpronetwork.com, or in the description area on YouTube if you're watching on YouTube. And check this out. Lots of good data in here to look through. Well worth your time. We're running a little long, so we're going to take a break. When we come back, we've got an excellent interview lined up with Jerry Koutavas, the president of the ASCII Group. Lisa and I and Rich will be there doing that on the other side of the break. Stick around. We'll be right back. All right, and we are back with part 2 of ChannelPro Weekly. We got a great guest interview lined up for you today. For those who are listening or watching this, might be involved of a group called ASCII. Now, the ASCII Group is a trusted community of over 1,500 independent IT professionals that serve the SMB market in North America. The ASCII Group brings together MSPs with a common goal of helping each other succeed. Joining us now is Jerry Koutavas, president of the ASCII Group. Welcome, Jerry.
Hey, Matt, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Great. It's great to have you on. For those who are unfamiliar with you, why don't you tell us a little bit about you, and then we'll kind of dive into a little bit about ASCII.
Yeah, sure. Basically, I'm a little dangerous because I came up with technology. I was educated as a programmer, and then I got to a certain part where I couldn't get through. I don't know if it was Pascal or COBOL 2, but it was at a point where I had to make a change. But I love technology, and I landed on marketing. So having to work with the ASCII Group and in this industry in general has been a blessing for me because I get to see technology that I'm so sort of like nerdy about, and then figure out the best ways to actually see how we can help our members, the MSPs, push that technology to the market. So, it's very interesting. And, I've been doing this for going on 25 years this year, and I still have the love for technology. And it's just a great industry to be in. And it's just so wonderful to see what not only our industry does, but our members in terms of how they're serving their customers and how they're helping those businesses to succeed. And so it's just a great thing.
Very good. And tell us a little bit about you personally. What do you like to do when you're not dabbling with technology and helping MSPs?
Sure. So, I never put up like I'm showing my office. Usually I'll have like some sort of like media wall behind me, but love music. I'm a big fan of going to concerts. Obviously with COVID, that kind of threw everything for a loop. But I love enjoying music, even though I'm not a musician, just love it. And outside of that, hiking and, trying to learn as much as possible. My Photoshop skills are getting better every day. and that's about it. I have a wife, I have 3 kids. They're all growing up fast and furious. But what can I tell you? It's probably me in a nutshell.
So when they're growing up fast and furious, does that mean they're turning into like deadly race car drivers? Is that what that is?
No. Thank goodness they're pretty calm drivers on the roads in Florida. But overall, my kids are, I don't even know how to say it, but such different personalities. I got one that's super shy. I got one that is completely an extrovert. And then I have one that should be a lawyer. So it's all over the place.
Wow, that is all over the place. All right. So let me ask you a question. In terms of era of music, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, God forbid today.
Yeah.
Best era for music, go.
60s. Because the 60s started really getting the groove in, like 50s. The 60s really started, and then it pushed everything forward. So that era, I feel, was the turning point for people to see where music could go and what you could do with it and how not to be so conservative with it. So I think the 60s really kind of was the stepping stone for what we see today, obviously.
Okay, and we're not playing 5 questions, but I'm gonna throw this out there for everybody. I'll start with Lisa. Lisa, top 3 60s bands, go.
Good Lord, I didn't prepare this. Top 3 60 bands. I I don't know. I know 70s. I'm a product of the 80s. If you asked me that, I would have been really good. I'm thinking probably the Doors. I don't know if they're 60s or 70s, but I
60s,
loved
yep.
the Doors. I loved, and again, I don't know if 60s or 70s, but I love the Mamas and the Papas. I love them. And I did love Janis Joplin. So I don't know if they're 60s or 70s, but those are three that really left a huge impression on me. So that's mine.
Love it. Rich, to you?
Beatles, Stones, Dylan.
Beatles, Stones, Dylan. And all right, to the master of ceremonies, Jerry, top 360s bands.
I'll go off what Lisa said. The Doors were really instrumental. And then, you know, there's so much stuff coming out of Motown too, as well. And I can't get a beat on like which particular, you know, artist or band was best, but that whole category was huge. And then, you know, I don't know if this is late 60s, more 70s, but Neil Young. So that's about it for me.
Love it. Good choices. For me, I would say the Doors, and the Doors. I was a huge Doors fan. Still am. So that's the one I'm going to go for the top three. There was more than three members in that band, so that qualifies in my head. It does anyway. All right. So Jerry, what we got you on here to talk about today is kind of like, well, you know, a lot of things that's going on the channel. ASCII is very plugged in to the community and kind of can see what's going on. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about the ASCII group, specifically about what you do there and what members kind of take away from it?
Sure. So our goal, you know, it's funny. There's you know, community is now such a buzzword, but we've been doing this for such a good long time. It's interesting what people think of a community and our definition of a community. Our definition of a community is that there is this structure and reinforcement that we as a company are providing to the community. So it's just not all up for the community. It's we're a part of that structure, and we're trying to help the community move forward. So if you leave it to the devices of, let's just say, like narrowing this down to a bunch of volunteers, that may not last in terms of what a real structured community is going to do from a performance perspective. So from an ASCII perspective, our goal is to simply put fuel to the fire. And when I say fuel to the fire, is that we're trying to make sure the MSPs are doing the right things. They're looking at the right path in terms of revenue opportunities and what they should be doing internally to become more efficient and to optimize their business for the better. So that is a really large, you know, plate that we have to fill with regards to what the MSP should be doing. And so we look at every little aspect of that. And if we can figure out which areas are the most painful, then we're going to try to tackle that area and go after it. So it never ends. You know, it's just something that if you look at our programs 10 years ago compared to today, they're completely different.
You know, Jerry, I mostly want to talk about where we are today in the channel and where maybe we're headed. But I mean, let's spend just a little bit of time looking back to last year, because one of the things ASCII Group did last year was introduce a telehealth benefit for its members. And I was sort of curious at the time, you know, how COVID specific was that, and to what extent does it kind of reflect maybe some of the needs that your members were coming to you with last year?
Yeah, this has been an ongoing thing. So the insurance cost for a small business is out of control. Obviously, it's a big problem for us in America. And this has always been on the docket. So we've been having conversations with large health providers even before COVID. So this is something that COVID didn't just push. We've been sort of in the conversation for years, honestly. And so with regards to the telehealth program, we basically struck a deal with a company that has value in our industry, and they're providing this service at no cost. The caveat is that you have to have a call with their sales team because they have supplemental programs. Those supplemental programs like dental and what have you, they're saving our members a tremendous amount of money. And so when I initially looked at this, I go, you know what, this is a little bit too good to be true. But after seeing the results, they're closing 25% of the people they talk to because the savings is so huge. So we're saving people money on their health insurance in that aspect, and then we're giving them the benefit of a free telehealth program. And obviously, given the COVID situation right now, the timing is great because people don't need to physically go to the physician's office. But these are the things that we try to crack. And so this is a problem that no one in our industry, nobody really looked at it. And so we keep a beat on it to say, okay, can this be cracked? And can we get to the right person? And the way that we cracked this one, we found the lawyer for the Obamacare program, talked to the lawyer, and he gave us straight line of sight into how to get this program going. And so we're trying to figure out those types of relationships and seeing if we can actually do this. And right now, we actually have a healthcare program for the group that's being tested right now in Florida and in Texas. We haven't made a big splash about this, but the people that are going into this program are saving significantly. So once we have it seeded to the point where we'll make a splash, then we'll formally announce it. But yeah, we're digging at this.
I may. So this is, Jerry, that's really intriguing, I must say, because for an MSP, I concur, it's our number 2 expense behind payroll in my MSP. So if you're telling me that I'm going to be able to cut costs, provide the same level of service, and the details we could always talk about later, like, in-network, out-of-network providers, United versus, all care savers and whatever. But just to hear that there is a thought to helping MSPs curve this very large expense, but a real necessary benefit I offer my company. So that's really intriguing. So I'm looking forward to hearing more about this for sure.
No, absolutely. We had, and I won't go into too much because we're going to cover a bunch of stuff, but MSPs are number crunchers. They have to be, okay? Mm-hmm. And in terms of this particular program, we had a well-known member in our group. He's on the advisory council. He had a call. He's in California, looked at the numbers and was saving him like 4 to 5% on what he was spending, I think, just alone on dental, and this is on top of the idea that this telehealth program can be provided to their 1099s as well. It can be extended so those subcontractors can fall under it as well. So, again, it's nice that we have this. We want people to utilize it. And again, it's a discussion. You have to evaluate. I know a lot of people don't like digging at the numbers further. Like once you have it done, like life insurance and business insurance, you're like, okay, well, maybe I don't need to look at it right now. But given where we are in terms of timing, this is task it to somebody, have them look at it and crunch the numbers.
And if the numbers are too crunchy, you can soak them first, just FYI.
Any MSP knows, though, that if the numbers work and it's a good program that will provide a good service, the numbers are worth crunching. Crunchy or soggy, we'll still crunch. So,
Jerry, Matt mentioned, you've got your finger to the pulse of the channel, which is very true. Over 1,500 members in ASCII, and I'll bet every last one of them personally. And we just earlier in the episode here, we talked about ChannelPro's latest State of the Channel report. So our kind of take on where things stand right now. Just big, broad question. I mean, what is the mood out there right now among your members?
Well, I mean, it's. I'm going to try to see if I can encapsulate this, but lucky's not the right word. Maybe it is because of COVID and our industry and what they had to do, but blessed is probably the best word for our industry at this point. So we're seeing so many of our members grow because of the opportunity COVID presented. It's unfortunate given how this all worked out, but if you look at them, the MSPs as essential workers in this whole ecosystem, how important now is it for our industry to be recognized and what they did to upstand a lot of these businesses that had to work remote, how to keep their employees productive, how to put security measures in, and all this. This is our story. This is something that, from a MSP perspective, this is something that everyone should leverage going forward. And this is the time to double down. Everybody is getting a good influx of cash. Project work still is popping here and there, but once we start leading into the summer, get ready again. There's going to be another peak, and I think that for the smart MSPs out there, this is a time to now reinvest in your company. Don't just go, wow, we're really killing it, and not have the infrastructure to take it to the next level. They have to double down. They have to double down in marketing. They have to double down with regards to sales, in terms of getting good salespeople, which for an MSP, it's a foreign notion. My salesperson is a mix of tech and sales. Well, you know what? Salespeople are salespeople, and it's very hard to get that blend of someone that understands technology that can sell. Okay, you have to be an odd bird. Like I can sell technology, but I'm an odd bird. Nobody does sales and understands technology. You really have to understand that process. So my take is MSPs should look at this as an opportunity to fuel growth. Don't be complacent and say, well, great, we're going to take it now, and I'm going to just hold on to this sort of war chest. That is the wrong approach, because once we start coming out of this, the people that are putting the resources in place are going to just excel.
You know, in conversations with people who follow the channel, and I'm thinking in particular of Paul Dipple, who we talked about earlier on in the podcast today, he said very similar to you that, 2020, against all expectations, was actually a reasonably good year for folks in the channel. But he also said there was a lot of variation between the top quartile of MSPs. In his sample, it's all MSPs. Top quartile, bottom quartile had a very different experience last year. You may have just answered this a little bit when you were talking about sales and marketing, but I mean, are there any patterns that you've seen that sort of characterize the channel partners who are doing best right now, did great last year, doing great now, versus the ones who have maybe been struggling a little bit?
Well, I think the easy answer to this is that it depends on sort of the mix of clients that they have. So that's one component of it. So if all the eggs were in more of a vertical basket, like say hospitality or what have you, those people got crushed. And so it depends on sort of the balance. I know we had a member that was in the dental vertical, and he was killing it before COVID, and then it really took a pretty good swing at his business in terms of revenue. So being balanced in terms of account management and types of clients, that was one of the factors in terms of growth. The other factor is basically just speed to basically deliver these services and having the resources to actually do it. So if you were a smaller MSP, you're only going to handle so much because your capacity utilization. So sure, they grew, but the people that had more utilization to actually deliver the services and get these proposals knocked out and what have you, those are the people that obviously got a little bit better ahead. I don't know if, I'm trying to think if there's any other variables, but it's really the structure. And it ties right into what I'm talking about in terms of going forward, is that if you have the structure and the capacity to grow, then when you have these, it's like a stress test. Every company has been stress tested because of COVID. The MSP's company has been stress tested. So if you can make it through this stress test and have the capacity to grow, great. But if you were already struggling to just even manage your current clients, and okay, now you have all these work from home situations and opportunities, you're even struggling further because you can't even handle it. So I think it really is a headcount thing there as well, and the number of clients. And obviously, I don't know what that ratio would be, but I think those are the key factors to this.
I agree, if I may, with you, Jerry, that those MSPs, being, you know, an MSP myself, and how I had to embrace the whole COVID experience. And we thankfully had clients that are one of our verticals is lawyers. So they're a service industry. So whether they're working now, they were impacted going into the courthouse and all of that, but they still could try cases and they could still serve clients remotely, which was put a lot of pressure on us to act fast. So yes, I agree that we are blessed. I think the other piece that is a difference is, and the third component to that, you've got your client base, you've got the right resources to help, but also it's the mindset that I'm going to keep marketing and I'm going to keep, just like you mentioned earlier, Jerry. So we took 1 month off of our formal marketing, which was March, because it was hit everything. We just had to be empathetic to the fact that our whole country, our whole globe changed. And it was a very scary experience for all of us, because I have employees and there's 22 of us on staff. And I'm like, how do I maintain this? What do we do? But then when we got over that, we started marketing in right away. And we were like, our clients need to know that we're still here, we're present, we exist. And then we kept prospecting. So we just kept pushing forward. I owed it to my team. I owed it to my clients as well. So I think that's the third piece, was that marketing and growth mindset that we've got to push through this or else.
Probably not marketing to concert halls though, huh?
No, sadly, no, sadly. So I know I have some very disappointed teenagers who wanted to go see Harry Styles in concert. So, so yes, the music of today, very different than the Rolling Stones.
Jerry, one of the interesting and distinctive things about ASCII Group is a lot of what you do is in response to what your members are asking you for. And some of what you do is you alerting members to issues that maybe they aren't on the radar, but they should be thinking about. So I kind of want to ask about both those things. I'll start with the first piece. I mean, when you talk to members now, what are they most eager for? What are they asking you for more of?
Well, it's I'll try to generalize this. There's so many, with all the technology, with the stacks that all these people are managing, there's enough problems in those stacks alone that we get, a percentage of our members are just saying, listen, I just need to figure out how to just optimize what we have right now. Okay, so that's ongoing. That's never going to end. Okay. Then we have a percentage of members that go, listen, we need to push forward towards more compliance. We got to get more solutions there. And there's areas where it's a little bit more niche-y, where our members say, listen, we need to start looking at solutions there. So we are doing that. And then, I would say the third part is sort of where I see the market going, where I feel the members potentially see the market going, where we're starting to look at different ways that we can push our members in those areas. So, for example, and I know this is, I don't know, I think it's a buzzword right now, but basically, this zero trust methodology is going to be the standard. It is. It's painful right now for any MSP to actually really start trying to implement this, because you lock down everything and you have to turn specific connections on. So there's not a automation strategy or close to it that is going to allow the MSP to say, listen, we can roll this out without much issue. That's not the case at all. And so, but eventually it is going to get to the point, either with log analysis and what have you, where they can get their clients onboarded fairly quickly and then go in and massage the connections. But I see that is going to be an area that is going to be very interesting. And there is companies popping in the channel right now that focus on it. But the smart MSPs are looking at that space, because what it comes down to, listen, I'm not an MSP. Lisa's team is an MSP. They understand this. To sleep at night as an MSP and to know that your clients are secure, that's a very hard thing to do. Okay. And so ultimately, the smarter MSPs are going to have to start looking at that approach in terms of zero trust to even manage this. This is right now, and not to get on a rant, right now, cyber insurance firms are not, in certain verticals, not covering MSPs. It is not even worth it. They're just saying, we can't even help you. They're not even giving them a quote. We're not going to even touch it. Okay. So further down the line, these insurance companies, and starting already, they are going to now require certain things. They have not figured out a way to actually vet the information, meaning that if I tell Lloyd's, I offer two-factor authentication across the board, they're going to go, great, we're going to take you at your word. Okay. But no one's checking this stuff out. So as part of that, I think zero trust is going to play a big role in it. And it's a matter of time before that becomes sort of the key thing that's going to help our group secure their clients. So that's going to be a very interesting time for us.
So zero trust, something very much on your agenda for 2021 in terms of what you're going to be communicating about, delivering resources about to your members. What other things? What are some market opportunities or issues that you see that you want to make sure your members appreciate?
Yeah, another area I think is going to be kind of interesting is 5G embedded into the laptops. And so this is going to be something that it's not popping right now, but it's going to become a standard with regards to always on connectivity in laptops. So if you think about people that are in the field, executives, lawyers, what have you, they're always going to have connectivity with some additional security baked into these laptops. So we threw something out to the group of, is anyone selling this? And it was absolutely like a donut. No one was selling it, but we are looking to push some education there so people are aware of it. So I think that's gonna tie into maybe a better solution, overall solution for the clients, and especially if you're work from home. These networks are getting bogged down, so there could be a safety valve if someone needed to have some additional connectivity, just in case their main source of bandwidth is disrupted.
So is this something ASCII would provide to its, like, we would buy it into it through its membership, or is that something you're saying that I, as an MSP, should be aware of going down the line, as something down the line?
Yeah, it's something that the MSP should be aware of. So we're talking to Qualcomm right now, and they're going to start a major push in the market with regards to this sort of technology and feature set, and it'll be in Lenovo and a variety of other laptop manufacturers. But we just think that most, like, just in terms of a reference point, when I put the question out to the group, 1,500 people said, I don't know what you're talking about, So it's that idea, like, okay, this is available. Maybe you should look at it. It'll be great for some of your higher end executives. So again, and if the technology is, priced right, it might go downstream even further in terms of getting a whole office set up. Who knows?
Well, I concur. Our clients are demanding, they're calling us now 24 hours a day. They're working from home, and it's really as if it's blended. The workday is now blended, and we need to now bring back the idea. You posted that article on the magazine, on the website, about Viva, and that's going to be an exciting Microsoft Viva. We can talk about that later, but that's going to be a critical component, because you're right, Jerry. Us as an MSP, we're 24 hours now. I mean, we're managed anyway, but it's different. The demand from home, we've had to keep up. So I'm excited to see where this 5G and the no trust piece, security, people are so trusting, and so many networks at home are still not secure. Yep. Never mind needing the no trust side of things, but we still are struggling with making sure that our clients are not using home units, and home computers, and we're trying to make some uniformity out of that. So 2 great points that I agree 1,000,000%, 1,000,000%. That's for sure.
It'll be interesting to see if 5G is the time when it all does start getting built into laptops. Because I mean, this has been something that we've been talking about for years and years and years. Like we had Edge, and then we had 3G, and it's like, yep, every computer's going to have 3G, and that didn't really happen. And then they're like, oh, 4G's coming. 4 is the magic number. Everyone's going to go into 4G. It's going to be everywhere. And then it wasn't. Maybe 5 is the number. We might be waiting until 6 or 7G. Who knows? But I do think, especially with a lot more of the workforce being remote, I do believe having cellular enabled devices is going to be important. But I think what always has held people back from that is the fact that, if you enable cellular in a device, you now have another per monthly, an additional cost to that per month in order to run that 24/7. Where it's like, well, you know what? I can just use I can pay that for one device, which is a phone, and then tether through that. So I'm not paying for 2 devices. But we'll see. We'll see if companies and MSP companies and SMBs in particular start taking that additional cost on to have an always connected device. So we're running a little short of time here, Jerry, but I would love to also mention that the ASCII Group does more than just bringing together MSPs. But you also do a lot of live events for your membership. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what your events are about and how people can get involved with those?
Sure. So I tell you, going back to stress, if you say events, I'm just like still reeling from what we had to deal with, and every event person out there, you guys know it as well, is that
Yes.
it was a challenge. It really was. So we pivoted and we're doing some virtual events, which are kind of unique. They break people into small group tables, and that's working out well. We have a couple of those happening, but on the physical side, we are kicking off in May, fingers crossed, with regards to an event, and that's going to be in the DC metropolitan area. And then we're going to have events every month, and we're bringing some really kind of unique content to the events. We have some MSPs speaking about their experience with growth and breaking through certain growing pains that they experienced. We have Mike Michalowicz from the Pumpkin Plan. He's going to be speaking, that a lot of MSPs have seen in the past. And just really a mix of really good content from the vendor community as well as ASCII. So we're looking forward to it. If you haven't been, it's a great experience because we do it right. You get fed. I told Alan already, I said, get ready. When our events happen, we're probably going to have the biggest bar bill ever, because this is going to be, when people get out, this is going to be like the summer of love. People are just going to go bananas. And so we're excited for seeing this take place and seeing everybody. But yeah, we are going to a variety of regional areas, and that information's at ASCIIevents.com if you have interest.
Excellent. Well, I want to give a big, warm thank you to Jerry Koutavas, President of ASCII Group, for coming on. Jerry, you did give a URL where they can learn about the events. Where can they go and learn more about the ASCII Group and see if that's something for them?
Sure. It's ASCII.com, and you can get connected to our team. They'll walk you through our programs, do a little bit of a business assessment with you in terms of a fit, and then you can join our community and meet your peers and just get right into the discussion that's taking place on everything, business, technology, and everything in between.
And if someone wanted to get a hold of you, how can they do that?
Sure. I'll give you my email address. It is jk@ascii.com. And if you have any questions about, hey, I really wish ASCII would do this, you might be surprised we may already be doing it. But if it's an area that we feel that is something that we can pursue, we're open to discuss it and figure it out. But you can reach out to me again at jk@ascii.com.
I encourage everyone to check it out. And Jerry, if you need a new tagline to try to bring people on board, I think you could go with something like the ASCII Group, our numbers have crunch. I think that would work.
I knew you were going to put crunch in there somehow.
I hope everyone checks that out. Jerry Koutavas, thank you so much for being on. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to wrap up the show with our regular end of the show features with Miss Lisa Shorr, who I believe is bringing her own museum pick today. So I'm really excited to dive into that. So we will check that out. Stick around. We will be right back. And we are back with part 3 of ChannelPro Weekly. Great interview with Jerry Koutavas from the ASCII Group. Rich, Lisa, any takeaways on that?
Well, you know what? This may or may not be a really silly takeaway, but it did occur to me as Jerry was, especially at the end there, he was kind of talking about, go to ASCIIevents.com and ASCII Group and so on. And I was thinking, everybody understands ASCII as ASCII, right? Or do we need to kind of point out that's what you're searching on?
Not everybody might know that. So that is correct. ASCII. And hopefully the talk of events of potential in-person events has maybe gotten everybody's, salivating to get back out and talk with people again. Lisa, anything you wanted to highlight from that interview?
I think one of the things that I really took away from Jerry is the need for all MSPs to be a member of an organization so that you can collaborate, you can take advantage. He was talking about telehealth, and I think that we all need to know that we're not on an island by ourselves, that having the conversations with our peers and that's one of the things that got me through COVID also, is I have peer groups that I rely heavily on. We ask questions, we can commiserate, we, learn from each other. And I think that's one of the biggest things that I took away from when listening to all the different insights that he shared and the telehealth conversation. We all should be a member and to collaborate together and not be on an island by ourselves.
Unless you really like being alone on an island, then I guess you could be on an island by yourself.
Well,
if you were on an island by yourself, Lisa, what would you be drinking?
I would, let's see, something with rum, some kind of a rum. I love rum cream. I love any kind of I like a dark and stormy. So with the ginger beer and rum, those are delicious. So yeah, something like with lime. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. I know what I'm doing after work. I haven't had a dark and stormy in ages. That sounds really good.
Oh, they're delicious.
I'm gonna do one of those later. I don't know if I have the stuff to make it, but I'll do that later on. And Cheers. I'll toast to you, Lisa Shorr. So I know we don't have a lot of time and we're running a little long, so we're gonna wrap things up here pretty quick. But I'm always excited when we have a guest that has lots of old stuff too, because everybody knows I usually do a museum pick where I pick one of the old things that I have because I've got more old things than I really should have, and it's a real problem. And I need mental help, I think. But there are other people in this world that have held on to old things, and for memory reasons or memorabilia or whatever. And Lisa's one of those people, and I love her for that. Lisa, what did you bring to share with us today?
So the last time I was on episode 127, I brought on a 1982 Watchman. And so I'm going up a decade, so it's not as old as my original toy, but this one is a 1992 Palmtop PC. It's a Hewlett-Packard 100LX. So it's a little personalized computer. I did try to put batteries in it, and it a little bit works, but not really. So, but the real cool part is not only, how we've really changed and evolved, but look at the memory card, and it's only one megabyte. So, putting that into perspective, A, look at the size, and B, I did the math earlier, and it's 16,000. What we have today, if you're thinking about a regular, 8 gigabytes or 16 gigabytes, which is standard now, that's 16,000 times more power, more space today than what we had then. So it's pretty amazing to see the difference. So that's what I've got for you.
Yeah, that is awesome. So the hardware now that runs DOS, if I remember correctly, right?
I don't know if you can see. I have it on. Oh, I don't know if you can see, but you can see a little bit of it on.
Yeah, I believe that's DOS based, but it didn't actually run. But it had a graphical UI, but it wasn't Windows. I think back then they had their kind of like own little Windows-esque kind of interface that they had.
This is definitely a DOS based. This is not window based. So it's asking for like prompts and stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, that is amazing. 4-color screen on that. But I believe it's all grayscale, if I remember correctly. Or was yours a color one?
Yeah, it's a gray background with black font. So type font.
Yeah,
Yeah.
4-color grayscale. It ran. I was trying to find the specs on that thing because it's when you get back to those where it was like it was a computer, it ran DOS, but I
Yeah.
mean the specs on there are just awesome. Like 1 megabyte of RAM. That's actually quite a bit. There is a true RS-232 port.
Yep.
It had an IR port. It didn't have a modem, but it had an IR port.
Here we go. There's the ports.
Yeah, so you could do that. Yeah, and it ran DOS and system features. DOS 5.0 is provided in ROM, so that was a DOS 5 based system. Oh, and it says, this will take you back. Config.sys and autoexec.bat files are now included in the ROM. Oh, everybody who's a nerd knows what I'm talking about. So awesome.
Yep.
I was trying to figure out what the processor was, because that would have been, it doesn't even say, 240 by 128 screen. Okay. It is an Intel compatible 8186. It's 8186 compatible. Runs at 7.91 megahertz. That is an awesome one, folks. You definitely got to Google this one and take a look at it. But I never had a PC based Palmtop like that. I have some Palm Pilots, and those, but I never did get the Palm Top, mostly because they were kind of out of my price range back then. That thing had a retail price, the one they were holding, of $749, believe it or not. So that was definitely more business class kind of device.
Well, to know my husband, every time there's a new toy, or he has to have the latest and greatest. So I cannot take credit that this was mine. So it's all Eric's, archives, and I just keep pulling from it. I'm like, what you got for me now? Let's look at it. Let me Google it. And I saw it on eBay, though. I did see it very varying prices, but the highest price I saw on eBay was $500. So I was like, really? So, but I did also see a price at like $250. And so it varies. It's just depending on who's selling it and the condition that it's in. So, but
yeah, for sure. Well, that's awesome stuff. I think in the interest of time, that museum pick is awesome enough. We don't even need a tech pick, because we could play that was then, this is now, and like what would be a product like that now? An actual laptop computer. So go out and find a new laptop computer. There's many to choose from. Lots. Let's pick one. The Surface Go. There you go. There's a nice Palmtop computer. That's not really a Palmtop, but either way, the Surface Go. There's my tech pick. How about that? Awesome stuff. Rich, why don't you wrap us up here and tell us what we missed and what's coming up?
Yeah, well, if you want an excellent roundup of what you missed, great place to go every Friday is our In Case You Missed It post, written by our own James Gaskin. It was kind of a slow news week, actually, in a lot of ways, but there were some new security solutions from PCmatic, from Checkpoint, from SecureWorks, and some others. Plus, James is going to talk a little bit, I believe, about a story that proves that AirPods, your Apple AirPods, they're great for listening. They're not so great for snacking. Coming up,
awfully crunchy, aren't they?
I'll bet. Yeah.
There is some snacking. Okay.
X-rays and everything, people, you just won't believe it. But if you think this was a slow week, I think coming up is going to be a little slow too, because there isn't a whole lot happening on the conference circuit that I'm aware of. There are some news stories coming. Those are under embargo that I can't really talk about. So we will discuss what's coming up next week on the ChannelPro Weekly Podcast.
Fantastic stuff. Big thank you to Lisa Shorr, owner of Shorr Success and the co-owner of Secure Future Tech Solutions, for joining us. Lisa, for those who want to connect with you or learn more about you, where can they go? How can they find you?
Yeah, they can find me at Shorr, SHORR, shorrsuccess.com. Right on the top of my website, there is a link that if you want to book a 15-minute conversation and chat, please feel free. So it's shorrsuccess.com. And feel free to reach out and book a meeting with me. It's right on my homepage. It's a big blue button. Love to talk to you.
And we encourage everyone to do so as well. Awesome stuff. Thank you again for being on. I hope you had a good time.
I loved it. Thank you so much, both of you.
You're welcome. And we will absolutely have you back again, especially to dive into more of the stuff that Eric has, because I always look forward to every piece you bring on.
I got more. I've got more. If that's enticing, that's great. I got more.
We would have you on even without it, though, so don't worry about it. ChannelProNetwork.com is the website. Go there each and every day for news, articles, white papers, downloads, resources, everything that you need to make your business better, to make more money, and to keep on top of what's going on in this crazy, crazy industry that we call IT. Subscribe to the Channel Pro Weekly podcast while you're at it. That's the best way to keep us with you while you're on the go. We're at all the different podcast places: Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Amazon Music, wherever. You just go do it there. If you like to watch, and we encourage that you do, YouTube is where you'll find our YouTube channel. Hit the red subscribe button and the bell, and then the menu for all. I don't know. It's really complicated to subscribe stuff on YouTube now, but just do all of those things, and then you'll be subscribed to us there as well. Follow us on the socials. Lisa, are you on the socials?
I'm on the socials. You can find me on Facebook, Shorr Success. You can find me on Twitter at Shorr Success. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on YouTube. I'm all over. Yep.
Just like us, we're everywhere.
Website. All of the links are on my website. So you don't have to write it down. Just go to shorrsuccess.com and you'll find it. So
that they should do. Follow Channel Pro Network everywhere. We're at Channel Pro SMB on Twitter and Channel Pro Network everywhere else. Rich, what are you on the Twitters?
At Rich Free.
I'm at Matt Whitlock on the Twitter, so you follow me there. And we will see everybody in episode 176 next week. See you then.